1200s, King John's men settled on the banks of a little fishing village called Liverpool. In 1207, King John granted Liverpool a town charter, and we began to grow. Very slowly at first. We picked up a bit of pace in the 1600s. 1700s got a bit better. By the time we got to the reign of Queen Victoria, we were the second greatest port in the British Empire. We were. And the other 350 bands that came out of this city during that time. And the River Mersey was back on the map as well, thanks to another great band from Liverpool called Jerry and the Pacemakers, because they gave us a song about our ferry across the Mersey. I was going to ask Les to sing it for us today, but I don't think I'll bother. Les was in one of those 350 bands, you know. I will say this, he's a good guitarist and he has got a good voice, but he's got to have about 10 pints of lager down him before he'll do any performing. And of course, because this is the busiest time of the year for us, he's not allowed anything to drink. The city every year. And all the other Blue Badge guides tell me that they're coming to see our wonderful architecture, our maritime history, our football teams.
Our hotel. The Oldby Hotel.
And here's all the old Beatles sites for Liverpool. That beige and blue building there that you can see is the newest building of the King's Dock. It's built right across the water. It's a beautiful building, but it's not very popular with the people of Liverpool. Well, we don't like it anyway, Les and I, we don't like it at all. That's the tax office. George Harrison didn't like the tax man either, did he? No. When George Harrison found out how much the Beatles were paying in tax, he did what every good Beatle would do. No. 5th or 8th. It was either voted the 4th most popular album of the last century or the 5th most. I do know that Sgt. Pepper was number 1. Abbey Road was number 2. The White Album was number 4 or 5. Revolver was number 4 or 5. And Rubber Soul was number 8. I mean, you know, it's easy to get confused, isn't it? 5 in the top 10. Scott, the only Roman Catholic to be buried in the grounds of the Protestant cathedral, and that's typical of Liverpool. Ivan Vaughan. Ivan had passed a scholarship to attend the Liverpool Institute in the city centre. Ivan's best friend in school was a lad everyone called Macca. Of course, these days we know him better as Sir Macca. That was June the 22nd, 1957. The band played all the old rock and roll favourites to the street party in Rosebery Street. What they didn't know on that day was that 2 weeks later the band would play again. They'd play at the Walton Fair. And Ivan Vaughan would introduce his best friend from school to his best friend from home. And these two ordinary boys, called John and Paul, from an ordinary town in the north of England called Liverpool, would go on to make musical history. An only child,
Right down there.
probably
Ringo.
one of the poorest of the, the poorest
was born.
Beatles, probably the oldest Beatle. 63 now, girls, a granddad. Say till he was a famous millionaire Beatle.
Ringo.
Times were tough in those days. We were at war, we were on ration. Elsie had to go out and find a job. One of the jobs she found was here at the Empress. She was a barmaid. And years later she married a man. Ringo was about 9 when she got married to Harry. Ringo had a wonderful relationship with his stepfather. And Harry and Elsie had a better life. Harry was always in full-time employment. And they used to come here at the weekend and get round the piano with friends and neighbours and have a good old family sing-song. Ringo actually put this on the cover of his first album, his first solo album, Sentimental Journey. So come in and have a drink. I wish we could. Next time.
Ringo's school.
The only Beatle not to pass the scholarship on to a higher education. But he's been practising over the years and he's now managed to get himself up to those Thomas the Tank Engine books, so he's okay.
Okay.
Okay, here.
There they are. Penny Lane. Here's Penny Lane. You're gonna go up there, I hope.
And over to the right now we've got the bank and the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. As we go through the traffic lights on the left, you'll see Tony Slavin's barbershop.
The roundabout.
Paul Mahoney wrote the song about Penny Lane. He wrote about the Bialetti's barbershop. The barbershop in those days used to belong to the Italian family, the Bialettis. Over the years it's been taken over by Tony Slavin, and as we go past you'll be able to see it on the left-hand side. As I said earlier, there's no pretty nurse selling poppies from a tray today. That only happens in November. And the bank manager, who never wears a mac in the pouring rain. The manager at the bank these days, his name is Mr. Macintosh. For those of you not from this country, Mac is a shortened version of the word Macintosh. He never wears a Macintosh, a Mac in the pouring rain. I just think it's quite coincidental that his name is Mr. Macintosh. There they've got their own Penny Lane sign in the window in the barber shop. We're going to head down towards Wavertree now. We're going to visit the home where my second favourite Beatle was born, the baby of the Beatles. But before we do, as we turn left, over to the right is Newcastle Road. Newcastle Road was John Lennon's first home. As a baby, he left the maternity hospital in Liverpool with his mummy Julia and his auntie Mimi, Julia's older sister. He came to live at number 9 Newcastle Road with his mum Julia, his dad Freddie and his grandfather, Julia's father George Stanley.
So this is where George Harrison was born and lived the first 6 years of his life. Little kitty cat in the door. Not a great part of town.
From working class backgrounds, one of our
Brian
Beatles
Epstein's
was middle
house.
class, but Brian was dead posh. And there was a lot of class distinction in those days as well. Class distinction that the Beatles actually helped break down. Thank goodness those days are over.
Yay, they're at Strawberry Field.
Slow, Tim, slow.
What's up there? Is that the school up there? It's a nice area here.
Yeah, it doesn't help the names.
Looking up the street, this is the school where John went to when he was younger. The magical mystery tour bus.
They've turned it into a museum. It's open to the public. You can go round the house and have a look at the bedroom that John Lennon wrote Please Please Me in. The bedroom is the little bay window above the front door. It's exactly the way it was, as close as they could get it to the way it was when John lived there with Mimi. We're very, very grateful to this Japanese lady who's done this for the city of Liverpool. And of course, her name is Yoko Ono. She eventually died down in Poole in Dorset, but she had a good life. And she loved John dearly, but she always used to say, every time I heard the name John Lennon, I knew it was trouble. Every day he'd go off to school on his bike, and an hour later the phone would ring. I knew who it was before I even picked it up. It would be Mr. Popjoy, the headmaster at Quarry Bank. Hello, Mrs. Smith, we've got a problem with John. Could you come to the school? Oh, Lord above, what now?
They bring you out in a minibus and they take you to Lennon's house and then McCartney's house. Yeah. It's like a loop.
This is McCartney's house. They recorded 100 Beatles songs in here. Used to rehearse in the bathroom. John, George, and Paul.
Now, Paul's bedroom was the one above the front door. Apparently he had a girlfriend in Hursley Road.
Paul's bedroom, right there.
And they used to play Kirby here. Anybody knows Kirby? Yeah. Play Kirby here. 20.
down there. There's the main drag outside McCartney's street.
She was pregnant with baby Julian. She worked on the cosmetic counter.
Cynthia
She was
worked
always
there.
in trouble because John was always coming in and chatting to her. Here we are at the top of Penny Lane, the bank, the barber shop, the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. Penny Lane and St Barnabas's Church on the left-hand side. St Barnabas's Church is where the vicar had sense because he took both of the McCartney boys on as choir boys. Years later, Paul McCartney came back to be best man at his brother Michael's wedding. Michael got married for the second time to the beautiful Rowena. His wife is gorgeous. So on the left-hand side,
Anglican Cathedral.
the Anglican Cathedral. And on the right-hand side, Lipper.
Paul McCartney School
When you look
for
at
the
some of our
Performing Arts.
architecture and you learn some of our history, it's no wonder we got the city of culture, is it? Made a bit of a
Oldest
spelling
Chinatown
mistake
in-
there though, can you see?
Oldest Chinatown in
Spelled it all
Europe.
wrong.
That's nice.
It's supposed to say mind your head, but they've spelt it all wrong. Now we're going to make our way down to Matthew Street, folks, to the cabin, and that's where we'll part company with Les.